welcome everyone to the SETC Special Education Tech Center webinar hosted by me tonight, Sharon Redman. And today we're going to be talking about AI, ChatGPT, and how I think that this is really a game changer in special education, so much so as was Velcro. If I've been around for a while. So if some of you remember when Velcro hit the scene, how that kind of changed our how we were able to do things in our classrooms. So we were able to, especially when it came to labeling and using pictures, that just became very friendly. Putting together schedules and having those schedules being able to be manipulated throughout the day. Velcro really changed how we could do things and for the better, right? And I feel as we go through today, that AI and ChatGPT can as well. All right, so our learning objectives tonight is that as our time together and we go kind of through this journey of what is AI and ChatGPT and NLP, what does that all mean? And I'm hoping by the end of this evening, you'll be able to describe these and be able to describe them to a peer. So put them into your own words. So being able to synthesize this information and being able to share that with others, that you'll be able to understand the importance of prompts and what that looks like right now when using a ChatGPT or another AI assistant. We're going to be looking at more. And then also I want us to be able to evaluate those considerations and potential challenges because they're there. And this AI technology definitely has some ethical considerations and these potential limitations of the technology. However, I think that as long as we know that going forward, that informs us as how we use this as a tool. So it's another tool in our toolbox, just like Velcro is. And so how can we maximize this benefit of using AI? So we're going to define kind of what is this artificial intelligence, this AI thing out here. Most of us have a basic understanding of what AI is and what NLP is. And NLP stands for natural language processing. And what the natural language processing is that it's a branch of artificial intelligence, and it's a way for the computers to understand and manipulate human language. For them to be able to read it and synthesize it and be able to use it, but it has its roots in the linguistics of that. So ChatGPT uses AI as a conversation that you can put in what you call prompts and be able to do a bunch of different things. And we'll show you what that is. What it is not, it's not a search tool. It's not a search engine. So oftentimes if you go in trying to search for certain things, you're not going to be able to find that. We have lots of search engines that you can do that with, but it's not that. It has limitations when it comes to that. One of the things that we're not really going to touch on and that this webinar isn't really going to be about is having that debate of whether or not AI and ChatGPT is something that we should be using in the schools. It's something that, students should be using because it's going to write all their papers for them. No one will ever have to write. There's lots of debates about that, but this isn't that webinar. There definitely is a place for that kind of conversation and debate and to have that, but this isn't that webinar. That I do want to though talk about AI as an assistive technology, almost as an assistive technology tool. And what we know in AT, and I kind of should go back, and I guess I really didn't introduce myself. I'm an assistive technology specialist and a K-12 educator. I've been in K-12 education for 20 plus years. And what I have seen over that time is often on my students who need assistive technology in order to access their curriculum and access their environment, oftentimes is seen as cheating. And so we really have to be careful when we're looking at how we're using AI to make sure that that's not the message that we're putting across. So What else about me? Oh, yeah. Well, I recently just changed positions and I'm no longer in the K-12 scene anymore. I've decided and just started my journey on a PhD, and that's what brought me out to the East Coast. And I'm going to Penn State and part of their AAC leadership program as well. So I'm doing lots of reading and I have a test in statistics next week, and it's making me a little nervous. And it's not going to be able to help me with that because it's all handwritten. So, all right. So here we go. We're going to explore a little bit more of this tool. So I wanted to just right off the bat talk about challenges and ethical considerations. There's a lot that's been written about this, and so I encourage you to go out and do some reading yourself. I cited one article that talks about AI in education and addressing these issues of ethical challenges. And some of the things that they talk about that I want to just have a conversation about is looking at when we are using AI in education and we're using AI for to support our learners that have different challenges. We need to be really understanding of the biases and the discrimination that can occur within the information that is produced from AI, from places like ChatGPT and Bard, some other sites that we'll explore tonight. So because of where this data is being pulled, so AI is trained and pulls from information that's been on the internet since the internet began, and up until a certain date, until roughly, I think right now it's 2021. And so we know when we look at that, well, so why is that bad? When we look at the information and we look at the research about the information that is out there right now on the big internets, that it's really has a bias towards typically white, cisgender male, that we're going to, that there are more articles, more things out there that are written positively about that population. And so we just need to be really considerate about that when it comes through. So just having that kind of with us and understanding that their societal biases are out there on the internet. And so when it's pulling information, that may be the case. The article goes in and talks about this at length about looking at nurses, and it brings, when it gives a definition or gives that the example about nurses, it brings in the pronouns she, her automatically, instead of thinking, well, not all nurses are female. So just as a quick small example. So it's really making sure that your students, you are looking at the information coming in, and you are analyzing that with this lens, making sure that that's there. Privacy can be a big deal. I think it poses a risk to data. So anytime you're using any type of AI, make sure that you take any information that could lead to the identity of your students or people that you're working with. So you really want to make sure of that. Lack of accountability, I think that you have to really work on, again, making sure that your sources are correct, because it will bring information. I actually asked it to find research studies of individuals that use AAC at the preschool level, and it brought all these studies out, but when you went to go actually look at them, they were fake. They weren't there. So you have to really make sure that you're looking at this information and checking it to make sure that it's accurate. So lack of autonomy comes into that consideration as well. And then accurateness. So I love this little meme that I found, and I had seen another one I'm on a bunch of Facebook websites that are Facebook groups, that on AI in education. And there was one that was similar to this, but when I first put this in back in March, and when ChatGPT was just so new, what it looked like was this like amazing shiny thing. It was so smart. And now working with ChatGPT can be a little challenging. And so you really have to be careful and making sure that we analyze the information to make sure that it's accurate. So, okay. So with that, with all the boo-hoos of it all, there's also some really amazing strengths. So what are some things that AI in education can help us do? And I have a list here that my friend, Dan Harley, helped me write, and I appreciate that. Hi, Dan, I see you in here. So we wrote this list of different functions that can help, AI can help in education. So, but I'd love to hear from you. So if you want to put in the chat some ideas that you've had on on what AI can do, or maybe some things that you've explored, so we can kind of search around and look for that. So, we're going to look tonight about how it can write a lesson plan, how that can help, summarizing content from multiple sources, researching information, writing a story given parameters. I love this. I'll show you some examples of how I did this with my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school life skills students, and how they wrote. I had them write an opinion piece, and then we went and asked ChatGPT to write it in a different mode, so in a different way. So we asked it to make a poem, a funny poem. We asked it to do a Disney movie, and then we even analyzed it, and we said, okay, do we think we could write that better? So we'll look at that, but it's super fun thing to do with kids and to get them excited about writing. Anything I can do to get middle schoolers excited about writing, I will do. Analyzing patterns, math sheets, leveling text is one of the biggest things I see in there that it can do. Writing activities, have it generate roll a sentence chart at a 2nd grade level. Yeah, Margaret said to help write a COSF, give a good list of things to consider and include. That's great. Yeah, these are exciting. And so keep them coming in, and I'll read them as we go. So, and more, there's just so much that this tool can do. So as you think about it, IEP goals. So Christy, we're going to actually talk about the IEP goals, social stories for autism using 3 types research. That's amazing. Yeah, I think that that's great. I write social stories on the fly all the time. So being able to do, I think one of the biggest uses that this AI can do, and we'll talk about this, is that producing accommodations on the fly. And so how can we support our paraeducators to accommodate and modify curriculum that's on the fly? So Tony said note-taking apps produce a summary. So Marina said she's used it to recreate books in Pictello. Amazing. Thanks, Christy. Yeah, or gen ed teachers. And I'll show you an example of me and working with our gen ed teacher in science class to be able to do this, to be able to modify curriculum on the fly. So how can we help? We've already talked a little bit of how AI can help us. So I had that, the ChatGPT, and AI, it adapts to our needs. It gives us immediate feedback, and that's really amazing. But it requires these prompts from the start. And I got this image. So you kind of have to think about what you put in is likely what you're going to get out. So if you don't put in good prompts, you're likely not going to get good things back out. So kind of that garbage in, garbage out idea of almost anything we do. So we still need to put the time in. We still need to put the effort in. We still need to have and understand how that prompting can go. And then how can we help our support staff be able to use this then as well? So how can we generate some things from that? Okay. Let's see here. Autumn said that I have stories on there, but I've used it to write a story that targets specific AAC code words, giving us plenty of opportunities to model those words. Love. Anytime we can add more things for our AAC users. I love that. That's amazing. Okay. So here's this idea of accommodations. So how AI can assist in creating these accommodations on the fly for students. So making that inclusion easier and accessible for all students, and that it happens just in time. So we need to use and learn how to use these tools ourselves so that then we can train our paraeducators or support staff to be able to do that, because there's no way that the 25 students I had on my caseload could I modify their science in middle school at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science levels for those kids. I could not do it all for math. I couldn't do it all for food science. I couldn't do it all for any of their gen ed classes that they took. There's no way that I could keep up that amount of work and still have a life. It's impossible to do all of that. I feel like I'm a pretty good teacher, but I still don't think I could make all of those accommodations and modifications and prep for every lesson every day of the week. It's just not practically possible. So what can we do and how can we leverage AI to do that? Okay, so we're going to take a look at that. So we're going to explore ChatGPT, and we're also going to look at some of the prompts that AI requires kind of to start that conversation. So I'm going to get out of here. Let's bear with me for a minute as we get out. So I have in here, so I've created this document that's kind of the ChatGPT on the fly to help I'm going to move this out of the way. There we go. Let's see if it shows up. I don't have it open. Okay, so I will open that up in just a minute. So we're going to go over to giving, what I did is earlier I said that for writing and working with my students for opinion writing. So they had to write their opinion, and this was the opinion that one of my students wrote, and I said, that's great. So now, what we're going to do is we can put it in and write a fancy poem. So they were really excited to get this done, right? To write their opinion. And we use lots of sentence starters, and we use lots of sentence frames. We had a lot of support in the writing to get to this point. So then we put it into ChatGPT and asked it to write a fancy poem. And we read this poem out loud, and then we decided, do we think that this poem that ChatGPT did it better? Or did we think that we could do it better? And as a class, they all decided they thought that ChatGPT could do it better. And I just wanted to let you know that we were writing our opinion based on a Readtopia prompt in the Westward Expansion Unit that was anchored by Sacagawea, the trip to the West. So they were writing their opinion about if they would eat buffalo. And so when you see it was great. They brought in the different tribes. But they felt that ChatGPT did a pretty good job. So then we asked it. They said, "How about a Disney movie?" And so it went
for a 16-inch padded envelope.
Hi, sorry. I think someone still has their sound on. So if you could just pause that, that'd be great. Okay, so they went through and had this story. We're not going to read the whole thing, but then I asked them, hey, what do you think? Could we have made a Disney movie better? And they thought we could. They thought that ChatGPT didn't do a great thing, which I loved, because we were able to start now analyzing and giving that opportunity. Then we wrote a short prompt about mimicking the story of Journey to the Center of the Earth. And so it wrote a story about that. about Jasper. And then we asked them if they felt, again, let's analyze this. Do you think that we could write a better short story based on this? Or do you think that we could do it better? And they all felt that we could do that better. So the other part that we found is that this wasn't it was hard. Most of my students can't read at this level. So then we asked it to redo it and rewrite it at a second grade reading level so that all of my students had access. And this was really great for them to be able, and for my paras, for them to clearly see how I could take a line of text, dump it into ChatGPT, and ask it to re-level that text for my students. And that was pretty great for them. So here I did it again. I tried using an FMP level C, and when I did the check on that, that was pretty accurate. So we're going to go into ChatGPT here. So you can sign up for ChatGPT 3.5. It's free. 4 is a paid version of that. And so this was exactly, sometimes the only reason I put it into a Google document is because I feel that whenever I've tried to show people this, use ChatGPT live, it ends up crashing. So I wanted to make sure everybody was able to see that. But this is what it looks like. You put in your prompt, put the following opinion paragraph into a fancy poem. And then I put the information in. And then this is what it came out. Then I'm able to use this copy button, copy and paste that over. So it becomes pretty easy. Again, here I did it with mimic the story, write it in a second grade reading level, write it at FMP level C. So I was able to do this. I have a private student who working with writing. And so we did the same thing. Let me go back at the top. So he wrote his opinion about he went swim with sharks. And so then we went and made it into a very scary story. So he was able to read that. And then he wanted to do an action movie and what that would look like. So it was really great. He and I were able to then use our assistive technology tools of text to speech and work on using how to use that tool to have it read back to us. We would take turns reading back and forth. And so it was a really great activity for us to do. And then again, copy. One of the things that I've used ChatGPT with, I was sick one day and we were going to be doing a sock activity, and which was for them to learn and follow directions. So I quickly put it in to ChatGPT and asked them to, and it even has even when you spell things wrong, it still understands it, which I thought was pretty impressive. So write a lesson plan to have students tell the teacher how to put on a sock. I like how it gives your plan, the objectives, procedures, then the instructional activities. It'll also give me the time frame, which we know it always takes longer than what any book ever says. So then debriefing and some extensions. And so I was able to take this, dump it into a Word doc, send it off with my instructions for the day, and go from there. Then I wanted to make sure that my substitute had something that could give my students that they could read so that they had an opportunity to kind of go with that and try it independently. So I was able to then have that put down as lower that reading level for them. So let's see here. What else have I done? In ChatGPT, I went and looked at giving some suggestions and what would it do to give suggestions for an IEP. So I was wanting to have a strength-based IEP, which is typically how I write IEPs. So I look at that first, and it didn't really give me what I wanted. These were all pieces that I knew. And so then I was like, okay, well, great. thank you, but that's not really what I wanted because I didn't give it the right prompt. So I wanted to, then I said, let's develop a webinar for discussing AAC and IEP with student strengths. And then it gave me titles. And so it kind of went through and gave me some suggestions. But here I want to go into this smart IEP spelling. Go all the way to the top. So we had a long conversation with this one, as you can see. So this is the one that I was looking for. So write 3 SMART goals for an AAC user with lights competencies and the operational competency, which is the operational competency is looking at how to use the tool or your AAC device, all those pieces. So I just kind of wanted to see what it would give for IEP suggestions without much prompting. And they looked okay. It knew that, turning on and off, adjusting volume, that would be within that competency. So it gave some interesting goals. I don't know if I didn't use them, but I just wanted to see kind of what it would give for different goals. Okay, so we're going to look at Bard. Now, Bard is Google's version of ChatGPT, and they just released this. I think it just was updated yesterday. I just got a note, so I went in and tried it today. And so pretty much the same thing. I went in and said, create a lesson plan for the water cycle for an 8th grade student reading at a 2nd grade reading level. And so it was able to do that. It was able to bring the objectives in the materials, procedure, the assessment. And then I asked it to create 5 vocabulary words from there. Was able to do that. Create a closed reading activity at a 1st grade reading level with the above vocabulary words. It didn't do so hot with this one. The closed activity wasn't as great as I had hoped for. So I would have had to, again, give it more information, provide it with more robust prompting, right? So that you can have that conversation. The thing that was pretty cool about it is that it has this double check responses where you can now, if it gives you a response, you can go and see the accuracy of that based on a Google search. So where it's pulling from, it's asking you to go search that. So I haven't really explored that much. I think that's an interesting challenge. So, okay. Any questions of any of those of using either ChatGPT or Bard? And it's pretty easy. You just start a new chat and you put in your message or your prompt that you want to use. So here's an example of one. I work with a student here at Penn State who is in the WorkLink program, which is a pretty cool program for individuals that have developmental disabilities, and they're a Penn State student. They work on campus. They take classes, and they have an ally that goes with them. So I was the ally that went with him. And while I'm in class, I took a few notes of what they were talking about in this evolutionary psychology class. And so I put that information in and said, okay, well, here are 5 vocabulary words that we could probably work on, because it's very rich, and the class was going at a pretty fast pace. So I wanted to be able to create some materials very quickly for him that he would be able to use when we did a study time after. So I had these. I felt like it was not really where I want, so I wanted to have some more key vocabularies about evolutionary psychology. And so we it created these. And then I said, great, I want you to create it. When I said clove, I meant close activity, and create 5 sentences at a 2nd grade reading level. So it did okay, but then I wanted to, and I love how it creates a word bank. which I think is really important. But still, these words were, I was having a hard time. So I wanted them to create another closed activity, but instead create kind of a multiple choice question, but be able to put those in with different, have some options right there with the word being right in the question. And so it was able to create some activities for this. So then I wanted to could use some examples instead of the ones that they used with monkeys and cats. And so they did 2 of them, and then came back to chameleons, penguins, and cactuses. So that was fine. Then they went into, as we're going in perfect design of adaptations. So just as I'm in this class and the professor is talking, about perfect design of adaptations, I'm like, okay, let's see if they can just provide that very quickly. This is something very easily that we can teach our support staff that's in classes. Okay, so we have our students that are in there. They need to be able to access, and when on their IEP, it talks about them being assessed, and they need to have 50% of the information, or be able to understand 50% of the information of their peers. So our paras can go in and say, okay, of the 10 vocabulary words, the teacher and I talked about, these are the 3 that we're gonna work on, and then I can start bringing this information in and start asking these questions. I know that my students at a 2nd grade reading level, can we highlight the main points, and being able to bring these simplified explanations so that we can copy and paste them. And so then what I did, and I don't have this example up, but what I did then is just took this information, copy, threw it into a Google slide, looked for a few pictures and to be able to support their learning. And then we were able to use this for his studying on these words, to try to make it a little bit more concrete for him. So it was really great. This whole thing took me, I was in the class and was able to do this right along with him and have this information ready to go, so that when we came back to our, like I said, our study session, that we could use this material. So it was a really great example of how we could have our allies, even here or anywhere that's in a classroom, being able to, even if you had the science class and you had the 5 words of the water systems or evaporation or whatever you're talking about in science, to be able to bring those in and kind of do it very quickly and on the fly. Okay, so we're going to come back here. Okay, just going to present. All right. Yeah, so Dan, Newsella, right, on the fly with that content. The one thing with Newsella is you could only get it down to a certain level. So they do Lexile levels in Newsella. So if you needed to bring in more information, I've even asked it to, I don't have it up, but I will get that at the end. I've even asked it to go and find videos, make suggestions of videos from YouTube that could explain evaporation. And it would give me some titles then that I could quickly go and throw into YouTube and to find. So it wasn't perfect, but it gave us a list of information. So we talked about lesson plans, but I want to just go into, I like I said, I'm on this Facebook page for AI, and it gets a little overwhelming with all of the different sites that have come up just since March, since I talked about doing this webinar, and it got very overwhelming. So kind of sat on it. I've been taking notes and creating a list. And so what I wanted to present with you guys tonight were just 2 options that I found that looked pretty promising. So for lesson plans and much more is magicschool.ai. And we will look into that. It's really great. My favorite thing about magicschool.ai compared to eduaid.ai, and we'll look at that as well, is that the first thing that it came up with, it talked about best practices right away. So check for biases and accuracy. I think any site you use that all comes up with and tells you its pitfalls, like, to me, like, I thought that was just really great. Use an 80-20 approach, use AI for initial work, but make sure you add your final touch. I think that's really important, that for you to review for those biases, those accuracies, make sure that it's contextually appropriate for the last 20. Your judgment matters, that AI is a starting point, not the final solution. So knowing your limits, that the knowledge stops here, it says 2021. So understand if you're looking for recent topics and recent news, it's not going to provide you with that information. And then privacy, making sure you don't go against FERPA, and you make sure that the personal data of students and names and details are all removed. So these are the two that we'll look at. There are so much out there that we would spend hours looking. Please go and take a look at those. We're just going to, we're going to take a look at those right now. So, all right. So the first one that I want to take a look at is the Eduaid AI, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool assistant. I think that this is really great for that gen ed teacher to create. What I noticed looking in here is that it didn't give me a lot of opportunity to modify or to bring the content used as an 8th grade content and then bring it into and modify it to a reading level. I did like how it provides rubrics. That's really great. So this is a really great place for the teacher to start with that lesson planning. How you use it is you can start here, lesson seeds, and if you put a topic, water cycle, let's just say, and you can enhance. It'll give you a little bit of information, and then you can add it to your workplace. And so it's going to give now lots of information about identifying and describing the stages of water. It goes very quickly. Right away, you have lots of information. Again, these are suggestions, and it's up to you as the teacher to make sure if these are right at the level that you need them to be. I love then you can ask for a rubric and add that to the workspace. I'll come down here so that it quickly and efficiently makes a rubric for you. And then you have more information. You can do some lists, some anchor charts, some direct instruction scripts, some independent practice. And then it had some cooperative learning, some games, some Jeopardy that you could put together so that you could come up some think, pair, share activities. So it was pretty cool in giving some suggestions here. So then here you could do some true false questions, add it to your workspace, and it's going to really quickly add those for you to take and grab. And then you copy and take it out. And then you can save this and make you all dizzy. Can save this as water cycle. Oops. And then save so that you have that content and you can go back to it. So it has some chatting. There's your assistants. You can chat with their AI, get some feedback, do some assessment building. So really for that gen ed teacher, it can really Or even if for special education, if we are needing to create some multiple choice or some different assessments at a different level with that same information, that you'd be able to put that in there. So pretty cool tool. I was pretty impressed with it. It's free. So you can go and sign up for EduAid at any time. This one I love. So this is magicschool.ai, and it is very cool. So let's go all the way back up to the top. You have at the top, you can suggest just for planning, student support. And this is, I see where we would sit in. I have not played with all these tools. I have played with their IEP generator, and we'll take a look at that. But I just wanted to go to this one tool. We were playing with this right before. And as I scroll, you can see all the different things. A colleague song generator. I mean, how cool is that? That's very cool. Coming up with those sometimes can be hard. Let's see here. Where was it? It was no, I'm not going to be able to find it. All right, I'm going to look for it again. Someone sees it, yell or something that you see it. So I'm looking for the teacher joke creator, which I thought was just hilarious. So teacher joke creator, that's what I'm looking for. Here it is, teacher joke creator, right at the top. Thanks, Autumn. Found it, teacher joke creator. So I'm going to have a kindergarten joke, and I'm going to have a joke about the water cycle, because every good class should start with some fun, right? So I love this. Why did the water go to school? Because it wanted to become a well-educated liquid. Come on, that's pretty good. And what did one raindrop say to the other raindrop? Two's company, but three's a cloud. Okay, that's really funny. A lot of good dad jokes here. Okay, that's just at the kindergarten level. Let's say you had to, 12th grade. I have no idea what they're going to do. Why did the water cycle break up with the ocean? Because it heard the ocean was too salty and it needed some space to evaporate. Okay, so you get the idea that, jokes, that's great. What better way to get our students engaged in their learning? I love that. Hope said she asked ChatGPT to tell her jokes all the time. The best part is asking it to explain to me when I don't get it. That's the best. And what does it say, Hope? What does it tell you? I would love to know the answer. So, okay, so we have some joke generators here. These are really cool. And I've played around with these quite a few times, but not all of it in here. But this video, YouTube video summarizer. So being able to summarize YouTube and be able to work with that, create questions from a video, being able to align that and have that done very quickly. You find a YouTube video on the water cycle, let's say. And so now I want to be able to summarize that really quickly, and I wanted to have questions done very quickly, and then you can put them into a leveler and have that leveled at your students' reading level, and bam, you have instant materials for your students that are at their level and are giving them that schema and background that they need in maybe a different way rather than just listening to the teacher. Maybe it's by video and they have animation along with that. Okay, so all right, so let's go back to the jokes because that's my favorite part. So Hope said, so why did the duck get in trouble with the teacher? And because it kept playing hooky. She said, I don't understand that one. Please explain. Said, of course, this joke plays on the phrase playing hooky, which means to skip school or work without permission. In the joke, the duck is getting into trouble with the teacher because it's playing hooky. But instead of skipping school, it literally is playing with a hook. like a fisherman's hook. It's a pun that uses the word hooky in a different context for humor. Okay, I love that. It's not as funny as the original joke, I would say, but I love that it gave the explanation for you to get it. So that's great. So you can see here, it has a student feedback tool, this lesson plan generator. We can go into that and take a look at that. So again, it gives you what grade level you are at, what you're teaching, putting in the CCS standards, Common Core State standards, or whatever standards that you have, and then any additional context that you need. Oh, and here's another is align it to the CCSs or whatever standards that you have. I do really, again, appreciate Magic School AI's quest for best practice, and saying that made trained on best practice, educator compliant with a FERPA, decline non-educator related requests. Here it talks about its limitations. So it really, again, it's a tool that is in our toolbox, but it's saying, hey, you need to make sure that you work on this with caution. I see this tool, I like how we go up here to the top and we go into computer student supports. I haven't played with the bit generator. That makes me a little nervous. I love the text scaffolding tool and being able to have different tiers of vocabulary. Here's an accommodation suggestion. I think that's great. This one, I just see how easy this would be to apply and to show our support staff, our student teachers, our paraeducators, paraprofessionals, on how to be able to use this and have this up and to bring the information right when they're in the class, be able to dump it into either a Word doc, if you're using Microsoft programs, or a Google Doc, if you're a Google school, to be able and have that shared with your student right there on the fly. I think that that's amazing. I love the IEP that they say suggestion generator. I think that's important because, as we know, that this is where you need to be very in compliant with FERPA, right? So that you're not putting any information in there that would identify your student. But this is where, as a teacher, you need to have your present level performances. So AI is not going to write that for you. You still have to know your students, know their level of performance, and then ask it then to give some suggestions. So it's a pretty exciting tool. I'm excited to see and hear from many of you. If you have used this, has anyone that's here used this tool yet, the Magic School AI? And if you have, well, I'm going to go back to our presentation. We looked at these two tools, talked about these ethical considerations and challenges, especially when it comes to writing those IEPs. So we saw that Magic School AI had an IEP suggestion, and I've written a million IEPs and a million IEP goals, and I know that there are IEP goal banks out there that you can research. I've put in just even a Google search, like looking for a goal that meets this need. And so I really love that this tool is more refined and is all kind of in one place. But we really need to keep these in mind. So confidential information, so important, understanding the biases of the IACE and the sources, that the goal suggestions are only as good as the information you provide. So if you don't have a robust present level of performance, you're not going to have a robust goal that it's going to give you suggestions. So having your data is really, really important to be able to utilize these tools appropriately. And then also, like I said, this is a suggestion. You create the final product. As with anything, if you're doing a lesson plan or creating an IEP, in there they had BIP suggestions. So I know that you are the final product. So here are some, just a few resources and some readings that are for you to kind of take a look at and see. And I'm going to just go back. I'm going to just say thank you. If you have any questions, I want to open it up to any questions. Yes, Ashley, I will share that slide deck with you. I'm sorry. So you can always email me at shredman@gmail.com. And I'm happy to get back to you.